Looking for that special gift? Share in the delight of my Sex Ed Masterclass, Hotter, Wiser, Wilder. This online course will help you go from ho-hum, he doesn't get me, she never understands me, to connected, powerful, with an in-depth understanding of each other at this time in life. And for the holidays, I'm offering 75% off. You heard it. Head over to Taboo to Truth and download your no fluff, no shame, just better conversations about sex masterclass now. Curious what dating really is like in your 50s, 60s, and beyond? In today's episode, I interviewed my friend Suzanne Noble, who is the host of Sex Advice for Seniors, and we went everywhere from, are the Brits more than the Americans? What is it like to be? What is dating really like? Should you have hair down there? And so many more topics. I had a blast, and I know you will too.
Here I am in New York with you, which is so exciting.
Yes.
And we've had a brilliant lunch talking about how challenging it is to meet men that are partner material.
Yes.
Over 50.
Yes.
But you were asking me a question.
I was asking if the Brits, who I would think of as notoriously reserved, although I feel like they're more open to sex than Americans.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think that as what I know from being in the UK since I was a teenager, actually, is that there is a history of kink in the UK. And that's for a genuine reason, is that lots of men of a certain age, let's say 50 plus, lots of them went to public schools, which in England means private schools. Right. And there was some not very pleasant stuff that went on there that often led to them being used to being in kind of relationships where there was some degree of power dynamic.
Super interesting.
And it's interesting because I spoke to a woman this week and she said that there are 3 ages at which your sexual kind of, I guess, destiny, if you want to call it, or sexual birthright comes into being: 7, 14, and 21. And I thought that's really interesting because 7 is often the age when many of these men would have gone to boarding schools. Like my best friend went to boarding school when he was like 6, 7. 14 is normally the age where you start secondary school, which is like the equivalent of almost like high school. Uh-huh. And then 21 is like when you're at university, right? And it's those 3 stages of life which often determine how you are going to become sexually. So if you go into a place where there's very strict rules around what you can and cannot do, and there's some degree of power and control, often that manifests in, there's lots of people into BDSM in the UK. I suspect far more than, I'm just guessing.
Right.
But I do meet a lot of them. And I think that's something that's very British.
That is so interesting. I interviewed, actually next week on my podcast, I interviewed a dominatrix who is a dungeon in London. So that's interesting.
There you go.
Yeah. But I'm not too tapped into the community here. Have you ever tried to go to any play parties here that were BDSM oriented?
Not recently, but I did go to a club years ago. In fact, I knew quite a few people in that community many years ago when I wrote my first book. I tapped into that whole spectrum. But in the UK, there's loads of them. And we've got one in particular, which is very popular, called Pedestal, which is a femdom club where you go and it's all female dominatrixes and men that turn up and want to worship feet and do all sorts of stuff like that. And it's really packed. And the dominatrixes I know in the UK are busy as hell.
Wow. Maybe we're in the wrong profession.
Yeah, and usually what I find fascinating is usually there's not much actual penetrative sex that goes on. It's all around control. And I have a friend as well who does it as a kind of hobby. And there are people out there that are willing to spend significant amounts of money. So I'd say that certainly from a kinky side, from a not so kinky side, are they more sexually open? I think that's quite difficult to say because I think so much of that depends on the way you were brought up and the environment and how your parents taught you or didn't teach you about sex. What do you think?
What about talking about it? One of the things that's been interesting to me, the last few guys I dated, I was very open about what I do. And a few of them like listened to every episode of my podcast and they were all over it. And I felt like it was intimidating. Like they were so curious, but then it became like a weird thing. And quite frankly, several of them were convinced that they were going to be the ones that were going to help me orgasm without a vibrator, that they were and I'm like, and these actually guys were all a little bit younger and not a one was like, they weren't terrible, but they clearly were not as experienced as they had been. But what's also interesting is, I think I mentioned this before, or I was talking to someone about it. I have a lot of friends that watch my reels and my videos and won't like them because they don't want anyone to know that they're watching.
Really?
So there is a lot of people who are, I would say, probably more like me, heteronormative, vanilla, but they want to know, but they just don't want anyone to know that they want to know. And so I think like we're repressed in a way. Weirdly, in America, we're repressed. So I just would have thought the Brits would be more, but they're not.
No. And in fact, I would say just the opposite, actually, is the guy that I hang out with, he doesn't care about any of it. Frankly, doesn't. He cares about it in so much as if we're talking about something that happens we're very comfortable just talking about sex, right? And he will take what I say about any kind of aspect of our sexual life. If I comment on it, he would possibly take that a bit more seriously, I would say, than he would from just somebody that maybe doesn't have as much experience. For instance, if I'm with somebody and I think that they've watched a lot of porn, as an example, and I think that because of the fact that they're asking me to do things that are clearly influenced by porn, positions that are very porn, or trying to make me squirt or something, which I can do. So I'm not like, okay, fine. But it's not like having an orgasm. It's just like squirting. It's a nice release, but that's about it. The obsession with all of that, I think, where does that come from? And for me, it's clearly influenced by porn and porn culture. And so I might say, how much porn do you watch? And they might go, oh, I know. Because some of the things that we're doing feel porny. Oh, I watched quite a bit. So
there is an obsession with porn, though. It's like super interesting. Sorry, with squirting. Like that's like a badge of honor. It's just like the same badge of honor where a guy's like, you're not going to need a vibrator with me. I'm like, have you met a menopausal vulva recently? Like, those nerve endings ain't working as well as the young vulva.
Yeah, and I don't have anybody anymore that doesn't like sex toys. Yeah, I just don't. So I would say that generally the reaction to what I do has been uniformly positive. I do get people liking, commenting, writing me little notes to say, oh, I just heard the latest episode and I really liked it.
Really?
Or was that related to something else that might have been something that we did or whatever. But yeah, I've not had anybody feel any sense of shame about it. Not at all, actually. Yeah. And I certainly get a lot. I have friends that give like massage who have said, would I like a free massage so that I can write about it? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll always take a free massage.
Like a massage with a happy ending or just a massage?
Sometimes a massage with a happy ending. Uh-huh. I got one from a woman recently, which was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it worked. So that was good. But I referred her to, I wrote about it, and quite a few men that I know went to see her, and they wrote to me afterwards and said, I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for that. So yeah, I find that people are quite open about that. But I think that there is definitely feels like in America now, that we're entering this age of repression. And I think that the people that I speak to about the States now, I definitely feel that there's a clamping down around sexual expression that we're not seeing so much in the UK.
I talk a lot more about dating and relationships, which, good news, bad news, I've had quite a bit of experience with it lately. Maybe we should move over there because we had an interesting conversation. Now, you seem a little more like accepting, and we are obviously very different people, of having like multiple partners that are not necessarily, quote, well, I guess they're all some sort of relationship, but like committed relationships, let's put it that way.
Yeah. It's not that I don't experience jealousy, because I definitely do experience jealousy, but I'm also keenly aware that our lives are quite complex at this stage. Some people, we talked earlier about, some people are still got young kids. Some people are still with the wife and maybe they don't sleep together anymore, right? Or some people have decided to open up their marriages because one person wants one thing and the other person wants something totally different. And they still love each other, but they want different things out of their sexual relationships. And I think that we can reach an age where we can just accept people for who they are without this expectation that they tick every single box for us. And part of that includes the willingness or not to accommodate other types of relationships with the relationships that we've got. I'm complicated because my best friend is an ex who's also an ex-boyfriend who also happens to be my best friend, who happens to be living with me at the moment while I'm helping him renovate an apartment. And people are very threatened by our relationship because they call us like platonic married people, because we are. But some people are fine with it. I'm like, if you want me, you got to accept that this person is in my life. And similarly with him, he's got women that say to him, who is she? Like, what is going on here with you guys? And she's like my best friend. And I don't like that. She's first. You're not.
So I definitely agree that one person cannot fulfill all your needs. And definitely as you age, life is different and we have different demands. And people always ask for some reason in the first few days, do you ever want to get married again? And I want a committed monogamous relationship, but I don't need someone 24/7. I don't need them to fulfill all my needs. I think that's part of the challenge, is that people go from long-term marriages where many of their needs are met, and obviously not enough that they end up separating or divorcing. And then they're looking to fill that, my person, my soulmate, whatever. And that's just not realistic.
Yeah. And I think that as we age, we get to the point as well where we have to think to ourselves, if we're with an age-appropriate person, and you're 60 and I'm 64. 64, and we're meeting men of our own age, what are we looking for there? Because certainly I find there's a lot of men of my own age who just have not looked after themselves. They're just not healthy. And I just worry for myself.
Right.
Like, what am I going to end up here? Am I going to end up as your nursemaid, as your carer?
Yeah.
So I find a lot of women of our age are seeking out younger partners simply because they want to avoid having to become someone's carer eventually. And I think, okay, fine. I'm not being selfish here, but I've still got relatively healthy parents in their late 80s.
Yeah. So it does make sense then to have several partners.
You have to decide amongst yourselves, like if you have a kind of don't ask relationship. I personally think that if you go away for a few days, you happen to have a hookup, as long as you're safe. That's the main thing for me, is you got to be safe. I don't jeopardize my health, but if you've got to hook up with somebody, I don't really care.
How do you know that it's going to be safe? Like when you hook up with somebody?
I know that I'm going to be safe.
Right. But how do you know the other person is?
You don't, but you've got to use condoms.
Right. Well, yes.
It's a bit of a no-brainer. That's as good as you're going to get with, thankfully, I've never had any issues most recently. But I think that's all you can do is protect yourself from little things you don't want.
And then when you travel and you're meeting somebody on an app, how do you forget about like your disease-free, infection-free, but physical safety? How do you know because here when you're in your own domain, you know how to keep yourself safe.
Look, I have been on and off online dating now for 25 years, right? I've got a very good sixth sense about anybody. I always meet people in public places. I always spend a considerable amount of time. Like, I do a bit of internet stalking. I find out as much as I can about their background. I don't typically bring anybody back to my house. I just do the things that I do to keep myself safe.
Right.
I do think that generally, if you've done a lot of dating, you do get a good sixth sense, don't you think?
Yeah, I brought guys back, and so far so good. Like, I seem to get a sense that they're okay. You never know, even when people get married and find out that their partners are abusive. Yeah. But I agree. I do think you start to be able to read the room a little bit. And I don't think it's quite as, one of the things I figured out in the last year or so, which I always knew was out there and I would never have gone out on a date, but I'm starting to recognize bots or catfishers by how their profiles are set up and how they operate, which is very interesting because you think they're okay, like down to the phone number, and then there's like a process, like a methodology to their madness. And
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a wonder that they keep doing it, but obviously people are falling prey to it.
I knew a guy who sadly went the whole way to the point where he was almost going to pay for the travel ticket and then realized it was...
He never met her like visually. Yeah. What happened to me was the profile looked good and it was so good. It was definitely ChatGPT. And then when we were going to have a phone call, I can't remember exactly how it went, but his picture did not match his voice. His voice was clearly like he sounded French African. And the picture was like this like buff, very American looking man who I actually ended up doing a face search. And he obviously grabbed this picture from some sort of site.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And when I started talking to him, I said, "Oh, where are you from? Are you French or whatever?" And he said, I don't know how it came up that I was a sex educator. I said, "You know what? You're giving me the creeps." And I hung up. And so you go back and the profile's gone. Right?
Yeah.
But there's stuff out there. Let me shift gears. Body image.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about this.
No, we haven't.
So I feel like women are so self-conscious and men aren't, although some men, as I'm finding, a little more so now than they used to be. How has it been as you've aged and when you're getting naked with someone? Do you ever assert to say, my vagina's dry or whatever, those kinds of things? Like, when did that shift? Because I imagine you're like me, where it's been a few years since that happened.
I don't know. I spend a lot of time working out and trying to be as fit as possible for my age. And I take my fitness really seriously and also try and eat well. And so that when I take my clothes off, I look good. And I think if I feel like I look good, then other people are going to think I look good. And people tell me I look good, so that's it for me. I'm like, okay, that's good. So, yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say that fit around your middle that suddenly appears during menopause isn't annoying.
I've had it my whole life.
Oh,
it wasn't new to me.
Yeah, I didn't. So where'd that appear from? But I've got a flat stomach. I'm quite muscular, so I feel like I'm doing well. I think that it's more the opposite for me, is that if a guy takes off his clothes and clearly has told me that he looks after himself and clearly doesn't, I'm like, I don't get it. Because when I said that I look after myself, I look after myself. And you don't look after yourself.
I think guys get a pooch a little bit too. Some of it is the beer belly and
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm very forgiving for the most part.
Okay. Manscaping, yay or nay?
What's manscaping?
When men take all the hair off.
Take all the hair down there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally for that.
Yeah. What about you? Are you bare down there? Or
mostly. Yeah, mostly. Yeah. Just better for oral.
I need a little protection, so.
Not much.
Not full bush, but I need a little protection.
No, not very much at all. No. And most guys I know, that's the thing about the UK, is most guys do shave down there.
Really?
Yeah. I very rarely come across hair.
I've just started to notice that recently, guys doing it. And then when I don't, imagine how men feel now when they end up with a woman who's got a bush, that most women are like completely bare. Certainly the younger generation.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. But yeah, personally, I don't really care either way. I was with somebody who was European and where women take everything off. Like there's parts of Europe where women just take it all off forever. They always take it off. And because I hadn't taken everything off, he was a bit like, I prefer it if it's all gone. And I said, yeah, that's a bit prepubescent, isn't it? Just leave a little bit down there. But he said, well, that's my preference. I said, fair enough.
But did you shave it for him? No. I know. I when the first guy I dated in California said that to me, he's like, basically, I want you to shave for me. And I'm like, no, this is how I like it. You don't like it. Go find another
Exactly.
This is not, I like it.
Yeah, and you should be lucky.
Exactly, that you could even get near it.
Exactly. This is the prize, baby. You are the prize.
Yes, absolutely.
More women need to know this is the prize.
Yes.
Big prize.
Yes, they're lucky, especially you and I who are like teachers.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a good shag. Of course. So are you.
But it's personal, right? Your good shag and my good shag might be different.
Yeah. But as long as I'm open to
learning.
To learning. Yeah. I'm open to doing most things that give somebody pleasure, pretty much, within reason.
When's the first time you did something that most of us vanilla folks would consider kinky?
Oh, God. I don't know what's kinky. What's kinky? Is kinky? No.
I guess it can be for some people. What was your first thing that you did that you would like?
I don't know.
Okay, so let's say
I suppose the thing was when I was in my 40s and I wanted to explore what was out there, I went to quite a lot of clubs and things just to find out what they were like. And there was some stuff that went on there, not that I participated in, I have to say, but there was some stuff that used to go on at Torture Garden, which is a club. And
the very name of it.
Yeah, but it's like just a fun kind of club with kink on the side. Uh-huh. It's a bit like the Kit Kat Club in Berlin. It's a similar sort of vibe, right? It's a clubby vibe, dance music, entertainment, lots of different zones where different kinds of things go on. And I remember in the early days of going to that, watching like play, and I was just like, fucking no, I couldn't do that.
I don't even think I want to know what that is.
Just things with needles and stuff like that.
I know that like people, I have a friend that's into electric. Yeah.
So all that kind of thing. I just don't like any of that. It was interesting to see that there were some people that really got turned on by all of that.
I understand impact play or sensation play. I understand what did you call in the beginning? Power dynamics. That role. But yeah, the real, truly painful stuff, I really don't. That would just be too much for me. But to each his own.
Yeah, and I think that the interesting thing about the impact stuff, because I just don't like pain at all, really.
Yeah, me neither.
But what I do like with anything, if you're going to be in the alternative lifestyle world, I don't want to be with a newbie because I'm a snob. So I just want to be with people that are really experienced in that, and I want to learn. So people that are super experienced in impact play, it's not painful.
Plus, you want that just because for safety reasons. I think the first time that somebody is going to entertain any kind of impact, any kind of kink, they want to be with someone who knows what they're doing.
And when you're with really experienced people and you just say to them, look, all of that is quite interesting, but I just don't want to get hurt. I don't really want to get bruised, and I don't want this and I don't want that. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. And then it just is something that takes place, and it's very slow. And it's like this gradual buildup of releasing your endorphins to the point where when the final like serious impact happens, it's like a sort of quite pleasant sting rather than anything that's like painful and it's actually really nice. And yeah, I was with somebody for a little while who's just very good at that. And so it's not something like I'm extremely obsessed with, but if you're with somebody that's really good, similar with like Tantra, right? When I've been with people who really understood Tantra in terms of the sexual kind of Tantra that you read about, and thought, wow, this is quite incredible what your body is capable of. When you meet somebody who really gets it, then it just transports you to another place. Yeah. And then it's amazing. And if someone ever hits, I get really angry. It's not my thing. It's not what I asked for. That's a total no. But if someone's really good at it, then it can just enhance your experience because it just draws out all those endorphins and everything. And yeah, it's really pleasant. If you want to go into any of these spaces, go into clubs where it's going on and you can just watch without participating is a really good way to decide if it might be something that you're interested in and to find other people who are really experienced rather than, because the problem with the apps, and there's ones like FetLife,
yes.
Yeah. And the problem with people sometimes on FetLife is that they've watched 50 Shades of Grey or they've seen some movies which are not depictive of what is actually really going on, and they've gotten some big ideas and they can be quite dangerous.
Yes.
And there's lots of people that have terrible stories about meeting people on some of those sites. And there are some genuine people there. The guy that I was describing, he was on FetLife and he's a professional. He was great, amazing. But there are other people who are really just trying it on and trying to exercise power and basically trying to get away with women.
No, I think you need to be super, super careful and look for people with experience. I actually, and I'm going to wrap it up now.
Yeah.
I was at a munch, which is a gathering of kinky people, social gathering.
Yeah.
People. I just wanted to meet and interview some of these people. And they were telling me about a place in LA, and I'm sure they exist in other cities, where they had a one night, a month or so, where they had showcased Like one area was impact play, one area was electro play, and you could learn and try it without getting involved in the whole play. So I suggest that to people who are interested in impact play. We didn't even start this out as an interview, but I am here with Suzanne Noble, the host of Sex Advice for Seniors. Love it, even though we're not really seniors.
Now, I mean, it's all relative, isn't it? I'm going to finish drinking my matcha.
Cheers.
It's just been so nice to hang out in New York.
Yes, this was really fun. I'm glad we finally got to do it.